Yeah. What did you get for feedback?
Well, this is going back to our linguistics class a couple episodes ago regarding Jewell and Jewell.
Dude.
And
I'm just going to say there's nothing that you can say to me that's going to make me say Jewell.
Oh. Okay, are you ready for this?
No, but go.
I might change. I might change your mind.
Okay, all right.
I have some information from a good source on this Jewell Trail debate. This may very well be the last chance that Team Jewell has to get on the right side of history here. Okay, are you committed to your position?
Whoever your source is a moron.
All right. Well, regarding the source, I can't reveal the source's name, but it rhymes with Meave Myth. And boy, what a mountain wanderer that guy is.
All right, well, okay.
He should write a book.
I'm softening my position a little bit, but go ahead.
So, here's what I have from that individual.
Broadcasting from the Woodpeckers studio in the great state of New Hampshire, welcome to the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast, where we discuss all things related to hiking and search and rescue in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Here are your hosts, Mike and Stomp.
All right, Stomp, so episode 17, welcome.
17.
I can drink legally now, right? Is that? Oh no, that's 21. 17.
You can maybe go to the roller skating rink alone.
I could go to the roller skating rink when I was 12.
You can watch one of those movies, those NC-17 movies.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So that's about it for 17. So anyway,
it's a pretty bland year.
So Stomp, I got, you know how I say I don't like feedback?
Yeah.
I got some more feedback.
Oh, I've got some feedback too.
All right, well, why don't I start and then...
And I've kept it hidden from you.
All right, well, why don't I start and then you can go next. So,
okay.
Odin the dog. Remember the dog episode that we did?
Yeah, how could you forget? That was an amazing story.
We don't have any update on the dog. I'm assuming the dog is hopefully that dog is just like relaxing in the backyard, not being bothered by anybody. But I get somebody reached out to me, and there's a big hole in the story that we need to fill in, I guess. So
really,
part of the story we didn't cover with Odin was that there was this whole period where from the time that he was spotted in the afternoon of Sunday up until Janine, who was our guest, came and met him with the sling, which was around 12:30. There was a whole period of time during the overnight into the morning where we just didn't have any idea what was going on there. So I got a follow up from a listener who had said that there was a lot of details that we missed, and I was like, well, we missed them because we didn't, we had no idea what was going on. So apparently, this listener wanted us to know that the AMC crew hut was pretty involved in support in helping the owner with the dog. So I guess they were giving him, they were helping bandage the dog, and they were giving, there was some guests there that were giving supplies, and they just wanted to make sure that we knew that the AMC crew was on the spot and helping out there, and that the feedback I got also was that the owner was a bit of an odd duck. I don't know how else to say it. And, they were trying to give him advice and really encourage him to get moving, to get down. And he didn't seem to be taking any of their advice. So it is what it is. But the other thing about the crew is I say this all the time when it comes to search and rescue, because people love to shit on the AMC and they love to shit all over the COG about how they just are in there, they're there for money and they shouldn't be on the mountain. And, you can argue that. But the thing that I always say about the AMC and the COG and many other organizations, we had that example of Waterville Valley stepping in and helping with a rescue over the winter. When search and rescue calls happen and they're in the vicinity of an AMC hut or they're in the vicinity of the COG, those organizations will step up and help.
Of course.
I haven't heard of a case where they would refuse to help somebody. So as much as people complain about like, oh, they're in it for money and, they have their issues, when it comes to search and rescue, they will step up and help people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, agreed. On our end, I think had we known, then we could have added that to the show credits and stuff, but hats off to AMC. Great work.
Yep. So now we have the update.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody has any inside info about Odin and how he's doing. Drop us a line. Let us know.
Yeah, I was going to reach out to a few people, but it was just been a crazy week. So it is what it is. But I'm sure the pup's doing fine.
Yeah. What did you get for feedback?
Well, this is going back to our linguistics class a couple episodes ago regarding Jewell and Jewell.
Dude.
And
there's
no, this.
So
yeah,
I'm just going to
is,
say there's nothing that you can say to me that's going to make me say Jewell.
Oh. Okay, are you ready for this?
No, but go.
I might change. I might change your mind.
Okay, all right.
I have some information from a good source on this Jewell Trail debate. This may very well be the last chance that Team Jewell has to get on the right side of history here. Okay, are you committed to your position?
Whoever your source is a moron.
All right. Well, regarding the source, I can't reveal the source's name, but it rhymes with Meave Myth. And boy, what a mountain wanderer that guy is.
All right. Well, okay.
He should write a book.
I'm softening my position a little bit, but go ahead. Go ahead.
So here's what I have from that individual. It's very interesting. He says, I think it's the latter. This is in reference to my first email, meaning due to the double L, as you said, Jewell. Plus, it was a person's name and not a stone. Meave. Meave Myth.
Let's dive into some White Mountains history, shall we?
The Jewell Trail is named after Sergeant Winfield S. Jewell from Lisbon, New Hampshire. He was an Army Signal Corps observer on Mount Washington from 1878 to 1880. And on listen to this is pretty hardcore. April 12th, 1884, while on the Greely Expedition to the Arctic, Jewell died of starvation. Out of the 25 men on the 3-year Greely Expedition, only 6 survived. Pretty hardcore.
I feel like I watched a movie on that before, but I don't
care. Yeah, that's amazing.
I don't care what you're reading, who's telling you this. It's the Jewell Trail. So however this name was pronounced back in the 15th century or wherever this guy lived, like the common pronunciation has taken over. So good
Possibly.
luck. If you want to change it, good luck, but it's going to be the Jewell Trail. So anyway, we spent way too much time on this. We do want to get into some introductions here in a moment. So we have our friend Mark here. He goes, his trail name is Knobbie. So do you want to say hi, Mark?
Hello.
Whoa, Mark's shot out of a cannon tonight. So
yes, I know. Oh,
very good.
Hey, Mark.
How you doing?
Good.
Thanks for inviting me on the show, guys.
No problem. Welcome.
Oh, you bet.
All right, Mark. So welcome. So we're going to get into the show opening here. So like I said, tonight we're joined by our friend Mark. Mark recently completed the Monadnock Sunapee Greenway Trail, and he is connecting that hike to the Cohos Trail to basically do one big long hike that he's putting together from all the way down from Long Island to through the New England Trail, and then he's going to be connecting that up to Canada by the Monadnock Sunapee Greenway and the Cohos Trail. So we've asked him to join us so that we can do a deep dive on this hike. He's also going to share some stories about hiking with Stomp, and he'll give us his perspective on backpacking in New Hampshire, and we may even get into a little Sasquatch discussion here. But we're going to start the show off with a recap of the Mount Washington Road Race, and later in the show, we'll also cover some search and rescue news. So I'm Mike.
And I'm Stomp. Let's get started.
Are you drinking? I know for the last like 5 shows in a row, Stomp, you've been drinking margaritas. Are you still doing that, or are you
No Mama Rita tonight. It's it's in honor of our guest tonight. It's a Fit Vine Pinot Grigio, which was my gift for driving him all over the state. Endless hours, endless miles, like a true friend. So, cheers, brother.
Nice, very good. So, you'll be shocked, Stomp. Normally, I think this is the first time I haven't had an IPA.
Yes.
So I went in the refrigerator and I was like, oh, I'm going to get a beer, and there's nothing in there. So I had to go with, I'm the only man in the house. So there's 3 daughters and my wife. So right now, all I have in the refrigerator is a Bud Light Seltzer, lemon lime.
Those are actually really nice and light.
It's not horrible. I mean, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not bad. So that's what I'm drinking. So I'll link this in the show notes for anybody that's interested, but it's not bad. Like, I could definitely see drinking this when I was out on like sometimes I'll rent the pontoon boat on Sebago or something. So it's pretty nice to have something like this on a day like that.
Oh yeah.
So Mark, are you drinking anything good? I saw you knocking something back.
I got just something I found in the refrigerator. It's a Fisher's Island lemonade, and it's 9% alcohol, but it's lemonade.
Wow.
It's very.
All right. Well, we got. It's fruity drink night for the SLASR podcast.
Yeah, very fruity, very fruity and nice.
Very cool. So, Stomp, any recent hikes for you?
Yes, sir. Yeah, my wife and I made it up Ike a couple days back, and it was a good time. It was really nice. First time above 4K for me for like quite a while, and maybe like 3 or 4 groups of people, but not too bad. And on the way down, there was...
This is Mount Eisenhower you're talking about?
Yeah, I call it Ike. Yeah, Eisenhower. Eisenhower. It's a beautiful day. You could see the full Prezi spread. And on the way down, there's nobody. And I posted a picture on the SLASR page of the murder hornets at the cairn. They were so bad that you had to be 50 feet away. I mean, they were swarming a 50-foot diameter around that cairn.
Really?
It was amazing watching people duck and dodge. So it was an interesting time. It was definitely not a time to go tap the cairn because those things are massive, like the size of my thumb.
Interesting.
Which is a big thumb.
Yeah. Did you go up Edmonds Path?
Yes, we did. Yeah. Parked right at the trailhead.
All right. So you just did up and down?
Yeah, and when we got there a little late, like 9:30, 10. The lot was full, so we were about 4 cars onto Mount Clinton Road, but not too overloaded. It's actually a really enjoyable time.
Yeah, it's a great trail. I did that the first day of winter this year, so it was fun getting out there.
Oh, it's awesome. How about you, Mike?
I didn't hike, but I did the Mount Washington Road Race, so I want to do a recap. Should we do that now?
That's not a hike. That's a run.
Yeah. Well, it's outdoors,
unless you're walking.
Well, I'll get into that. So it was a good race. Different start format this year. So normally with Mount Washington, it's like about 1,100 people in the start. But this year they split it up by female runners on Saturday, male runners on Sunday. So I went.
Why?
And it was probably because of COVID.
Why?
COVID.
Just to break up the. Yeah, but why the gender split?
Well, I think they just wanted to split the... I'm explaining, Stomp. So I think that logistically they set it up when COVID was in place, and they just decided to keep those rules in line just so that they didn't have to rejigger everything around. Because I don't think they knew when COVID was going to clear, but when they set this up. So what they did is they split up the starts with female on Saturday, male on Sunday. That means instead of 1,100, you got about 500 people starting, or 550 people. And the way that they did it this year is they moved the start line off to the side, and then they had the elite runners. There's like 15 of them go on, right at 8:30, and then they had us line up in rows of 2, and then they just had everyone go off every 10 seconds. So they just spread out the runners along the road a little bit, which was, I actually like that a little bit better, so you don't have to mess around with like trying to weave through people in the beginning. So so it was a little...
No, I guess it makes sense. I was just curious because I was wondering why they didn't do it by just volume, but now that I think about it, usually they have the men's category and then the women's category, and that would make sense if they're all competing against each other for those times. Yeah,
exactly. The elite runners, they want to have them separated so that they can all compete against each other. So, but it was good. There was a little bit weird. You had to carry like a water bottle, which I think that they're probably going to do that moving forward because I don't think they want cups all over the road. Mm-hmm. So I wore a running vest. I just had like a soft bottle, and they had a water stop at like mile 1.5, and then they did another one around 3 miles, and then that was it. So it was, and it was hot as hell. Like the first 2-3 miles was just like 70, 75 degrees with the sun pounding down on you and the fresh pavement. It was like you were running on a griddle. It was tough, and yeah. And
that's awful. Yeah, I saw that picture you posted. You looked pretty. I don't know what's the word.
Yeah, I never look good, so I certainly wasn't that. Stoic.
Yes.
That's a
stoic.
Good one. That's a good one. Yeah. So, but I had a rough time. I mean, I ran. So I typically try to run that race the entire time, and I couldn't do it. I just was not in the shape that I needed to be to do it. So I ran up to about the 4.5, maybe 5 mile mark. So like the hairpin on the dirt road. And then I just had to walk after that. So I was like the only one running in that section anyway. And then by then I was just like, I can't do this anymore. So
any breeze?
It started getting windy when you get above tree line. We were getting hit with. So the wind was at our back going up to the hairpin turn. And then when you turned back to get towards the Great Gulf, then the wind died down a little bit. And then once you got to like 5.5, 5 3/4, and you're going along the Great Gulf, the wind just started to sort of crosswind, knocking people around. Mm-hmm. And then we lost visibility at like 6,000 feet. You couldn't see more than 5 feet in front of you. So it was typical Mount Washington weather.
How was your time?
It was horrible. So I think the last time I ran it, I did 1 hour and 40. This time I did a little over 2 hours, which is slow for me, but I'm getting to the point where, I was always probably a reasonably competitive age group runner, but I'm just middle of the pack type of person now. So I'm just getting old.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Father Time marches on.
It is. Yeah, it sucks. It is. It was really like humbling for me because I try to be competitive, but I'm not at that level anymore. So old age, 49 years old, Stomp. Yeah. It's catching up.
I bet you could rehash your technique and come up with a speed walk that would get you a better time than you got this year.
Yeah, you know what I think it is too is I typically cross train, so I've been doing triathlons and swimming and biking, and I just got away from that with COVID, and I've just gotten into this comfortable rhythm of running, and I do about 25-30 miles a week, but I've gotten so efficient with it, I think I'm getting lazy, so I gotta pick up cycling again or just do more hiking. I don't know.
Did you run down like Dave Dunham?
So I hiked down Nelson Crag, and my foot really started bothering me. So I made it to the top. I made it down through the top half of Nelson Crag, and I got to the hairpin turn, and I got off at the road, and I just started walking down. And I had a friend from my hometown that was nice enough to flag me. He was driving down with his son, so I hopped in with him at halfway down that section, and then so he drove me the last 3 or 4 miles down. So it was a good day, but I was done. I wanted to go home by the time it was finished, and I iced my foot, and I'm just hoping that I didn't do any long-term damage to it.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll be fine. I know a therapist you can check in with.
Yeah, I've been icing it, so I'm gonna go run tomorrow and test it out. But yeah, Mount Washington was fun. It's always fun. I got a medal. I got the nice blanket. Everybody was very happy up top. There was a bunch of tourists up there that would just
my blanket.
It's so funny watching the tourists up there that come up on the cog, and they're just like, these people all just ran up this mountain. Are you insane?
It is crazy. It's a crazy thing.
Yeah, it is.
Did that elderly gentleman run, or is he done?
Oh, George, yeah. So they gave him a shout out at the beginning. So just for the audience's sake, there's a guy that runs Mount Washington. He's like in his he was in his 90s. I think he ran up until he was like 99. Couldn't run last year because of COVID, but he always gets the biggest ovation. And I think he didn't run in 2020. I think 2019 was the last year that he ran. He didn't finish in 2019. So so I think that was it for him. He's sick. So they basically said, yeah, he's sick. he wants to send his best wishes. So he's still alive. He's 101, but he's not able to do the run. But that guy,
incredible.
I remember in 2013 when he finished, it was the most insane cheering, and the place went nuts. It was one of the coolest sporting event experiences I've ever seen. So the guy is an absolute animal running up Mount Washington at 98 years old.
It's amazing.
Yep.
Good. Well, congrats, man. I hope to get in one of these years coming up. I would love to run it again.
Yeah.
And P.S., just to close out this section, no more hip talk. I've taken a corner. I feel like I'm normal.
Okay.
Like back a year and a half, 2 years, I feel like I'm back to what I was. It's incredible. And as a matter of fact, yesterday was the 3-month anniversary. 3 months.
Really? So,
And I'm like, I feel like I'm 100% other than like a minor lack of cardio. I feel great.
yeah.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
Yeah, congratulations. I feel like, what the hell are we going to talk about on this dumb podcast now? We always talk about your hip.
We talk about your foot? I don't know.
We can talk about the foot.
Wow, that's great. Don't get overconfident, though.
No, I agree. In terms of hiking, I'm back to where I was for sure. But even search and rescue, I'm probably a little cocky, but I feel like coming down Eisenhower, I just feel like I could pick up somebody without a problem. So I'm really moving forward for sure.
Yeah, that's huge. Because
Pretty cool.
honestly, like this whole I was on the clipboard and waiting in the parking lot on these search and rescues. It's not going to fly anymore. Like we need you on the action.
Yeah, teammates were teasing me too. They're like, "Hey, when are you going to order us the pizza for these missions?"
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
sometimes we'll order pizza. And I'm like, I told them, I can't commit to the pizza thing. I can't do it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, well, it's good to hear that COVID is canceled. Stomp's hip is canceled. So we'll see what else we can cancel this year.
Right. This podcast.
Yeah, no, well, we won't do that. So we're picking up steam. Like I can't joke around anymore and say like, oh, we're only got like 5 people listening, because we actually have like a lot of people listening now. So we got a lot of pressure on us. So
Yeah, we do. We have like five of your employees around the world listening.
Yeah, we got them all over
This
the
was
place.
revealed last week.
Yeah, exactly.
That was great.
Cool. All right. Well, you want to get into this? We want to talk about the Monadnock Sunapee Greenway, and we want to talk about the Cohos Trail. So we got our friend Mark, also known as Knobbie Hikes, here to give us a breakdown. So I'm going to hand this over to Stomp, and you can do this interview here, and I'll hop in.
SLASR's hiking topic of the week.
This is Mark Lindenberg, a.k.a. Knobbie. Knobbie Hikes on YouTube and Instagram. I met Mark a couple years back, and he's pretty cool. I don't know. Was I the one that influenced you to start doing these big hikes, or was this something that you had always done? Because when I met you, I was diving into a Pemi. I'm like, hey, you want to join me?
I was definitely very new to hiking when I did that. I think I had already done the Franconia Loop and stuff like that. And I had done some tough stuff before, but that was the first, my introduction to doing the Pemi.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw you. I was sleeping in my car, and I just, I didn't have any plan, and I really didn't know enough. I should have checked with trail conditions is what I should have done, because there was no snow anywhere. And then I saw you, and we were just casually talking, and you casually said, well, hey, yeah, I was thinking about doing it in a day, and which seemed absolutely ludicrous to me, but I wanted to look cool. So I was like, sure, I'll do it in a day.
Yeah.
And
that's a funny thing, because it's like, in my mind, I'm thinking, do I want to invite this person and get committed to this guy for 15 hours that I haven't even...
Oh, so you guys met in the parking lot? The Lincoln Woods?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. We were both walking in on the railroad track trail there, and together, and we were just going to talk for a little bit, because he had a coffee in his hand, and we were just kind of hanging out, walking, and the impression was that we were just going to walk for a little bit, and then he was going to take off. But one thing led to another, and the conversation was so good that we just kept going. And he was like, "Well, yeah, I'm thinking about doing it in a day." And I thought, I was fairly new to hiking, so I'm thinking, I don't know if I can do it in a day, but I'll give it a shot.
And your goal was to get to Garfield, right?
Yeah, I was going to. That was what I was thinking. Doing it in a 2-day, which isn't easy either.
Which is what you accomplished.
Yeah. But it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be because
hell of a weird day.
I mean, I have a picture that you took of me post holing and my whole leg disappeared. And it's the best picture. And I think I use it as a profile picture, I think.
Yeah, because that was spring snow, and there was plenty of monorail from Geo. This is the Pemi Loop. This is the 33-mile loop up in Lincoln, New Hampshire. And we were going counterclockwise, and by the time we got to the the Twinway, 2 miles, it was just post hole, and it was a strange day because there was the search concurrently going on for the individual that was lost on Lincoln Slide. So all day long we had Civil Air Patrol flying around, Blackhawks flying around,
a lot of
and that was before I got into search and rescue. It's just a really neat, cool day. It was just very interesting.
So you and Mark, you met in Lincoln Woods, randomly just walking down together, decided to hike the Pemi Loop together, or at least part of it, and then at the same time there's a search and rescue going on. But this is before Stomp, you had actually been on the search and rescue team.
Oh yeah, I think that might have been one of the influencing factors for me, because after we parted ways at Garfield tent site, I kept on going and I made it to Lincoln, or Lafayette, excuse me, and you couldn't see the Blackhawk, but you could hear it. And then, they plucked that guy off, at the last minute. And I ended up bailing on that one and heading down rather than completing the whole loop. But it's just a really interesting day. Met a great friend.
Still, that's hardcore. I couldn't have done that. That was really hardcore. Just getting up, climbing up Lafayette in those conditions, that's tough.
Well, here's my question. So you go from that, where you're doing, half of the Pemi, to crushing states. What got you into the longer trails, and just lead us into how you started this or conceived of this latest adventure of yours?
I've always been fairly. I've always liked a challenge. And my trail name is Knobbie because I had a really, really bad accident, really bad ski accident, and half my body was paralyzed. And I ended up, I was a really good mountain biker before it happened. And then when I was recovering after PT and stuff, I was a terrible mountain biker. And I was bouncing off trees, and I thought I was going to kill myself. And I was like, well, I'd rather be a dead mountain biker than the kind of mountain biker I am now. So I went every day. Until I was determined to get back to what I was. To make a long story short, that's the kind of PT that really brought me back from the accident. To move on from there, I started hiking, and I did a couple hikes that were so much harder than mountain biking. Hiking for a whole day compared to mountain biking for an hour. I enjoyed the challenge, and one of the first big trails I did, I was like, well, what's the toughest I could do? And so I heard that the long trail was a great trail to do. So that's what I did. Mm-hmm. I just jumped on the long trail, and that was the first time I really learned about the AT also. It was an amazing time, and the people that I met were amazing. And I did a lot of trails, like I did, the North-South Trail, the Mid-State Trail, the New England Trail. Just basically, I could just whatever was around me, I tried to do. So, like I said before, last year I did the New England Trail, and this year I was like, well, I might as well just keep going. And
you record all these for your YouTube channel.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot of people try to be famous. I know I'm not going to be famous, but it's really kind of nice to record it, because then you can look back and I don't have a great memory. Maybe that's the reason. But it's great to look back and be like, you have something to remember that trail from, and it's kind of gives that trail a little bit of respect, and kind of remembering it forever as making a video from it.
Where can people find those videos on YouTube? What is?
Oh, Knobbie Hikes YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have your encounter with the Yeti?
Yeah. Well, I do a lot of training locally, and this really isn't funny, because
tell us about it. We need to hear the Yeti story.
So basically, I was having dinner with my kids, and I left them at like 9 p.m. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go do some training because I wanted to get some mileage in because I was training to do one of these crazy hikes. And so I figured I could get 10 miles in before midnight kind of thing, and then I'd crash out somewhere, and then in the morning I'd get more miles and then be home. So I went out to the local place around me, and I logged like maybe 10 miles, and it was getting really late. And so I was like, you know what? Yeah, I knew the place because I'd mountain biked it a lot. And
well, so hold on, Mark. Like, you're not just going to throw out like that you saw Bigfoot and not give details on where this is. Well, so like, what does it mean around your place? Like, where are we talking?
This is in Rhode Island, which is right next to where I live, and it's Arcadia.
So, Rhode Island. You saw Sasquatch in Rhode Island.
Well, I didn't see him. I was going to camp out by the river. And so I went down, and it was obviously about midnight when I was going to stop hiking because I was kind of hurting a little bit. And I walked down to the river, about to take my pack off, and I hear this crash, like a boulder, like slamming into the water, like someone throwing a boulder in the water. So then right when I heard that, I slowly took a knee and turned my light off. And I just sat there like, all right, what's next? And then I hear it again, crash, like right near me in the water. And I'm thinking, is someone trying to mess with me? I know that this isn't like a place people camp. This isn't a place, people don't camp in this place. I knew that for like a 5 mile radius, I was the only person. I knew that. Couldn't comprehend what was happening. And then I heard it maybe 5 more times. And it was kind of going away from me, which really confused me too. Because I'm like, well, if they're trying to mess with me, why are they? And they sounded like such huge boulders that it didn't make any sense. So I was like, well, shit, I might as well walk out to the car. So I walked out to the car. And the next day, I called my buddy that I mountain bike with, and I'm like, Jamie, I don't understand. I told him the whole story, and he starts laughing, and he's like, what do you think it was? Well, I know it wasn't kids, right? Bigfoot? What other options are there? And he starts laughing, and he goes, I know exactly what it was. I'm like, all right. He goes, beavers. And I'm thinking to myself,
I've heard that too.
I'm thinking to myself, that's exactly it. And so I started laughing, and I was like, you know what? You're exactly right. Because where I heard the sound, there were no trails. You couldn't get to there. So the beavers live in an area that no one can get to. And so I felt kind of foolish, but it was kind of funny. It sounded like something big. It sounded big. Well,
I was hoping that was going to be a better eyewitness story of Sasquatch, but
oh hell no!
This will not be the last time that we talk about Sasquatch and Bigfoot. So
yeah.
But I'm not going to make fun.
No, I have other sources that swear that they've seen Sasquatch and the whites and you name it. So it's an interesting story. I don't have an opinion either way, but I'd just like to hear it.
We will. We've got a dedicated episode on weird New Hampshire coming up, so we'll talk about Bigfoot a little bit more. The main reason we have Mark on is to talk about how he's stringing together the Monadnock Sunapee Greenway with the Cohos Trail. So he's basically going from the Massachusetts border all the way up to Canada. And he's already done part of this hike. I think he's already done the Monadnock. Greenway section, and then he's going to be starting on the Cohos Trail, I think, in the next week or two. So,
Yeah.
Mark, can you give a little bit of background? So you talked about this a little bit. So you did the New England Trail, which is what is the New England Trail? That starts in like Connecticut and then goes up through.
Yeah, that starts in Guilford, Connecticut, and so you start there on Long Island Sound. It's you just follow the blazes, and it's fairly easy and well marked out, and it really is amazing how there are a lot of it's kind of like a ridge line that goes up. There are a lot of views on the New England Trail, and most of the views are, I think, western facing, which is kind of funny. I think there's only like maybe one or two eastern facing views.
Now, is the Mid-State Trail part of the New England Trail? So there's completely different. So when you're going through Massachusetts, you're farther west?
The North-South Trail starts in Rhode Island. That continues into Massachusetts as the Mid-State Trail. Starting in Guilford, Connecticut, you have the New England Trail that goes up. And once it gets to New Hampshire, it turns into the Metacomet Monadnock Trail. And that trail goes to Mount Monadnock and then turns into the Monadnock Sunapee Greenway Trail. Got
it. So you basically, and one of the reasons we want to have you on here is because I think me and Stomp spend so much time, like we're in the whites and we're doing like the 500 highest, the 4,000 footers, the 52 with the views. But you're unique to me because you do a lot of these backpacking trails in the New England area that don't get a lot of foot traffic. I mean, they probably do get a lot of day hikers and foot traffic, but they're just not talked about as much. And then the fact that you're stringing them all together to get up to Canada was interesting to me. So,
yeah, the Monadnock Sunapee Greenway, I think, sees a lot of traffic because I saw traffic on that. Getting up to the Monadnock, there wasn't any traffic. But there are people that it basically strings Mount Monadnock to Mount Sunapee. That's
yeah, I've heard about that. I feel like a lot of people end up doing that starting in like the late spring, early summer. And I know it has a reputation for being pretty kind of buggy early on in the year. So I don't know, how were the conditions of it when you were on it?
Well, when I did it, it was very rainy. So the bugs weren't too bad. When it wasn't raining, the bugs weren't bad, but it rained. I think I did 5 days, and then I had to work for a couple of days, and then I did 5 more days onto the AT. And those first 5 days, it really it rained. I think 3 or 4 days out of the 5. So and it was cold, as you remember. Yeah, but after Sunapee, after you reach Sunapee, it turns into the Sunapee Ragged Kearsarge Greenway, and the SRKG Trail, and that gets a little messy with a lot of road walking. So as I was in a shelter before Sunapee. Basically, I had to go, I think it was 26 miles that day to get back into the woods to sleep. I did the 26 miles, and then the next day I went on to Moose Mountain Ridge Trail, and that goes right to the AT. And then I took the AT down to the first road, and because I had to, that's where my car was down there. But then after a couple of days, I came back onto that and just did the AT, and I was trying to keep the big miles up, but it really gives you a lot of respect for the White Mountains because I was pulling, some big days like that 26 and 20 mile days. And then you hit the White Mountains and that's just not doable.
Yeah, it crushes you.
I mean, you do like a 16-mile day in the White Mountains, and I mean, there are people that could do a lot bigger, but maybe I'm just not capable of that. I don't know, but that's really tough in the White Mountains. So now because of some logistical problems, I got off like a day early, and so probably this weekend I'll get to back onto the AT and get to the beginning point of the Cohos Trail. The whole route from the New Hampshire border to Canada, I think is something in the ballpark of 320 miles, and I think I've done something in the ballpark of 175 so far.
Got it. So you're section hiking it, so you're doing it on weekends and stringing together like time off.
Yeah, because I have a job. I try to keep everybody happy, my boss and everyone. So sometimes I have to, come back and work for a couple of days and then I'm back on the trail. So starting in July 3rd, I'm going to be back on the trail. And this time I'm going doing the whole Cohos in one.
So before you get in the Cohos Trail, I just want to just kind of recap this. So you start on the New Hampshire border. You're going from there to Monadnock, and that section of the trail is called the what again?
The Metacomet Monadnock Trail.
Got it. And then from there, you're going to Sunapee...
Ragged Kearsarge Greenway Trail.
All right. And then there's a little bit of a road walk to get to the AT, and then you're taking the Appalachian Trail to Crawford Notch, and that's the start of the Cohos Trail.
I was going to do another link where you take like a connector from the Zealand Trail to the Cohos Trail just east of like Twin Mountain. And so basically you go down and do trails instead of having to road walk south back down to the Cohos.
Got it.
It's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to getting on the Cohos. I'm going to be going over the presidentials and then basically in the direction of like the Mount Washington Hotel and then going north of that. And so it starts hard and it goes easier as you go along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for people that aren't familiar with the Cohos Trail, like Mark had said, it starts at the Davis Path, which is sort of the southern presidentials, and it goes through the presidentials and then connects up
Isolation Mountain.
Yep,
Yeah.
it goes over Isolation and then connects into the presidentials, and then eventually you make your way into the Kilkenny Ridge Trail, which is like 27 miles, and then that eventually connects into Nash Stream Forest, which you're not allowed to camp above tree line, Stomp.
Exactly.
And then
good point.
Eventually you get into the far north. So it's what's the total distance on the Cohos Trail, Mark?
I think the Cohos is something, I think it's like 170.
Yeah, and it's getting more and more popular. So it's a full backpacking trail with shelters, and there's more and more people every year. It's getting more and more popular. So, what's your overall plan? So you're going to go northbound. What do you think you're going to do for mileage on a daily basis?
I was going to attempt 20s. I was going to try to do it in 10 days. But you know how it goes. That sounds good on paper, but it might be a little bit different as I get out there. The first day obviously is going to be a bit tough, but if I can get past the Mount Washington Hotel, I think I'll be looking good.
That's a good point, though. Are you committed to going northbound?
No, I'm not. No.
Because that might make your logistical life a little easier if you start north.
I'm not sold on anything. I mean, if you could probably easily convince me to do southbound, but I feel that as I've going north, I mean, I'll flip flop, but I don't think it's really necessary. And it would be kind of fun to end on the Canadian border. But yeah, the northern part of on the border of the Canadian border is very it's no man's land because there's no place to park a car up there. There's a little campground, I think, something like 5 miles or 10 miles away from the border. There's a camp area, and that's the only thing on that road. And they're really not crazy about the idea of leaving cars up there. Because I was just thinking I could just run, put my pack in the woods and then run down to the car if I left a car up there. But so that's the only logistical problem with ending up there. You need to have someone meet you up there. Where if you do it southbound, the nice thing about it is you can leave a car down in the parking lot at the beginning of the Davis path. And so that works out. Doing southbound would be easier, but I think I'm still probably sold on doing a northbound because my girlfriend's going to pick me up, I think.
Well, that's reason enough.
Yeah, we're gonna make the decision for you. You're going northbound.
All right.
So
okay.
Now, as far as the gear that you have, like, are you like an ultralight backpacker, or what do you consider yourself?
No, I really like light stuff, but I don't consider myself an ultralight. I never really weigh myself because the way I see it, it doesn't really matter. I have all light stuff, and I continue to all the new stuff that I get. Like I just got a new sleeping mat, and the sleeping mat is really ultralight. So my base weight's probably around 10 pounds, probably.
All right, I would say that's pretty close. Now, are you a tent person or a hammock person? Are you a shelter rat? You're a tent person?
Well, no, I'm a shelter rat because if I can, I like to get into the shelter. I like to meet people, but sometimes it's because my tent is a fairly ultralight tent. Well, not fairly ultralight tent, but it is. It's a trekking pole tent, so sometimes it's a bit of a pain in the butt to set that up, especially if you're at a place where there's they have the decking platforms. Setting your tent up on one of those decking platforms is kind of a pain in the butt because you need rocks. But so that's why I kind of lean towards the shelters, just because I can get in and out faster in the morning.
What kind of tent do you have?
I have it looks like a duplex. It's basically China's version of a duplex tent, the Z-Pax duplex. And I don't feel real good about that because I like to try to stick with American-made stuff, but I really can't part with like $600 to buy a Z-Pax duplex. But someday I will.
Funny side story: I was at work and we have to wear masks at the nursing home, and I'm walking down the hallway and my mask, one of the white little elastic bands, pops off like it does 100 times a day. And the administrator's walking down the hallway and he looks at me and goes, "China don't make them masks like they used to." Oh my God, it was classic.
That's terrible.
Right. Anyway, back on track. What was that noise in the background? Was that a Yeti in the background?
I think it was. I really think it was. It could have been. Or that or beaver.
I heard something.
Bigfoot or beavers.
Nice. So far, what would you say, like, as you've done this part of New Hampshire, what's been the biggest surprise for you so far?
Well, there's a couple. At the last year, at the end of the New England Trail, it was a really, really nice trail, but the ending was absolutely terrible. And if I have to give advice to anybody, I would say, to be really careful about the northern part of the New England Trail, because there's a lot of marshy area up there, and the mosquitoes up there are incredible. I mean, I've never seen that many mosquitoes in my life. You have to be very careful that you have a bug net and that you cover everything up.
You said that you were crushing miles, but then when you got to the whites, it was a whole different heartbreak scenario.
Moosalauke.
The first thing you typically hit is Moosalauke. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I was going to get to. So
Moosalauke, yeah.
Everybody tells me that that stretch from the Kinsman Ridge Trail, let's just say that, is one of the hardest sections in the Whites, if not the worst.
I get shivers when you said Kinsman. Yeah, that's a beast. That's a
It
beast.
is. Absolutely, yeah.
It's a little bit of scrambling.
You revealed to me that you were having trouble finding water over that stretch. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Going from Moosalauke to the next shelter, I think it's like something in the ballpark of nine miles. Mm-hmm. Right, so you do Moosalauke down Beaver Brook and cross the road, and you get onto this trail. And I passed these two people probably in their 80s, mm-hmm. and I'm like, oh yeah, hey. So they're like, yeah, we're on the trail. We're going towards Katahdin. And I'm like, wow, that's great. I'm like, good luck, guys. And I'm like, so you're going to the next shelter? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, me too. So I'll meet you there. Okay. So I go on, and I only have, I'm trying to stay light because I'm trying to, get more miles in. And so I just go with the liter of water from Beaver Brook. And then as I'm on the trail going up, I look at my map, and I'm like, my God, there's no water anywhere. And so after maybe 7 miles, there's water, like a little stream that you have to, use a cup. Mm-hmm. And so that was a really tough stretch because no water. And I was trying to really, hang on to my water. And so I get to the, make a long story short, I get to the shelter, and it was a really hard day because it was really hot, and there was, very little water that I was trying to limit myself on. And I woke up in the morning, and those guys never came in. And and there was no signal at the shelter. So I was really scared for those people, and hoping that they turned around and were safe. But then from that point on, you go towards Kinsman, and I slept at Garfield that next night.
Well, you got to keep us posted on this.
You know what we need to do is rename this. So stringing these segments of trails together, we should rename it the New Hampshire Long Trail.
That's a good name. Yeah. Yeah, I've been just calling it NET to Cohos.
I think we just call it the Knobbie Trail.
Yeah, we'll call it the Knobbie. Oh, that's true. We could call it the Knobbie Trail. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, Stomp, we want to transition into search and rescue news. So we're backed up for a couple of weeks here, but I think I got like 1, 2, 3, 4. We got five stories to cover here if you want to.
It's a never-ending list of stories here. We have a hiker that was assisted off of the Piper Trail Thursday, June 10th. Fishing Game was notified that a hiker had severe stomach pain on the Piper Trail. And here we go. We're back at Mount Chicora. Mount Chicora seems to be the top contender this year, right?
It is. It's definitely the hot spot. And we've got more stuff coming up later. We didn't even get to, there's some other stuff going on in Chicora, but this is the only one this week. But yeah, it's definitely this year. Chicora is the hot spot.
It's amazing. This 43-year-old man was hiking with two friends, his Laconia resident. He had severe abdominal pain all of a sudden while descending from the summit and couldn't continue. They were 3.5 miles from the trailhead. Conservation officers, Lakes Region Search and Rescue, and members or students, I should say, of the Solo Wilderness Medicine School responded to the individual. They arrived and were able to carry him out in a litter back to the trailhead, arriving back at about 3:30 in the morning. Rise and shine. 3:30 in the morning.
So the victim here is he's pretty active on social media, so I've seen him posting quite a bit. Good guy. He hikes a ton, and he actually was nice enough. He came on to the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue Facebook page and gave a little bit of background. So it was kidney stones. Those are, I've had a little bit of experience when I used to work at Logan Airport years ago. We had one of the bus drivers. I worked at a rental car place, and one of the bus drivers, I walked in the bathroom, and he was like on the bathroom floor suffering from kidney stones. He looked like, we talked about The Walking Dead earlier, he looked like a zombie from The Walking Dead, like screaming in pain. So I can only imagine what would happen if you're like hiking, you're deep in the woods on Mount Chikora, and then all of a sudden kidney stones hit you.
Yeah.
It must have been like, I would have panicked personally, but it sounds like he sucked it up and made his way down as best he could, and then eventually, they did the smart thing and called for a rescue, because, that's kind of like kidney stones hitting you on a hike is like getting struck by lightning. So it's a tough call, but that must have been incredible pain.
I've never experienced that myself. But I have heard some stories for sure. So that's the end of that one. Obviously, they made it out, and I'm sure he's doing better now.
Yep. Yeah, matter of fact, I saw him posting. He's back at it again. I think he did a Zealand's Bond Traverse. I saw tonight he had posted somewhere that he's out there. So good for him.
Crank out that stone and get back on the trail.
Oh,
That's it.
All right, so here's number 2. We have another rescue in the Wild River. We talked about another one recently.
Fatality that happened there the other 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that was the blowdown, correct?
Correct. Yeah, the hammock camper that unfortunately tree fell on him.
God.
10:30 a.m. Hiker rescued in Wild River. A 58-year-old woman from Stratford, New Hampshire, was hiking Mariah Brook Trail with her daughter. 1.3 miles into the woods, this individual slipped and fell and injured her arm. Following the incident, the two hikers worked together to splint the affected limb, which is pretty great when you're in that situation. If you can stabilize a limb and try to affect your own way out, that's preferred. Sometimes it's not possible, but in this case, they gave it a go. The pain, unfortunately, kept on increasing. They activated their personal locator beacon, which they had with them in their pack. The daughter went back to the Wild River campground to seek additional help. At about 11:15 a.m., Fish and Game officers were alerted to the incident. The only information that the beacon gave them was SOS, so they really had no idea what was going on with this. A Wild River campground host had sent out a radio transmission to the U.S. Forest Service also, indicating that he was dealing with a medical emergency and was in need of an ambulance. This area has no cell service, no radio communication. Rescue personnel from Gorham Ambulance, Bethel Ambulance, Gilead, I believe that's... Oh, here comes another linguistics lesson.
It's Gilead. Gilead.
Okay, all right, I'll take your word.
It's like Handmaiden's Tale, I think.
I'll take your word for it. That's fine.
All right.
Stone Hearth, Open Learning, that's solo, of course. We'll just call it solo. New Hampshire Fish and Game responded. 1 to 2 hours it took to arrive in that area.
Yeah, Evans Notch, I mean, that's a haul to get to. Like, if you get injured in that area, like, you're in for a long wait. No doubt about it.
Yeah. So the rescue party arrived at 1:45 p.m., and this individual with the injured arm was evaluated and ultimately transported by ambulance to Androscoggin Valley Hospital in Berlin for further workup. So it's pretty interesting. I mean, there's such poor coverage there. It's great that they had that beacon just to tip off the rescuers.
Yeah, but big thumbs up. So she made it most of the way herself, right?
Yeah.
Out of this? Yeah. So big thumbs up to her.
They tried to get out on their own, which is fantastic. And I mean, that's sort of what you stress people to do. Make sure that you're self-sufficient and you try to get out on your own. And if not, then we're here to help. Now, the next one takes us to Franconia Ridge. And this is on June 18th. This is an interesting one. Fish and Game was notified that another hiker had some issues, medical issues, and was unable to walk near the summit of Mount Lincoln. This is about 12:30 p.m. At the time of the emergency, the report says, AMC members from the Greenleaf Hut and a member of Pemi Valley Search and Rescue who happened to be in the area were on Mount Lafayette and hiked over to help the individual. The officers from Fish and Game arrived a bit later and hiked up the Falling Waters Trail directly to the victim. AMC, the volunteer, provided treatment and got the person moving under their own power. By 4:30, the conservation officers arrived with the party that was moving down trail, giving him additional food and water, and they all arrived out at about 6 p.m. And then from there, the individual was transported from the scene in a personal vehicle, so they declined to get into an ambulance or to seek medical treatment at that time.
Now, does that sound like a dehydration thing, you think?
I have no information on that. The report really doesn't get into that.
Stomp, can I just say that these cases where there's a rescue and the person chooses to go in their own personal vehicle, I feel like that shouldn't be allowed. They should have to go in an ambulance on the way out.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
I'm going to make that a rule.
That's a tough one. It's best if you are going to just opt not to go to a hospital is to have a friend drive you home.
Yeah. It's ultimately a free country. People can do what they want, but I think my thought on this is like sometimes like if people are too quick to call for a rescue and then all of a sudden they're a little panicked and then they get the cavalry comes in and then they're like, well, I'm feeling a little bit better, and then they just hop in their car. It's kind of like, did you waste everybody's time? But
which can happen.
I guess it's tough to know.
Yeah, they might not be able to afford the treatment, and so that may motivate them into not getting in the ambulance. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think of the money situation, but it is not cheap to get an ambulance ride, I can imagine.
Well, yeah, nor assessment at a hospital if you don't have insurance.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Shall we move on to the next?
Sure, my favorite location ever.
I knew you were going to say that. Diana's Bath. I've never been there.
Oh, yes.
And I never will.
Yeah. Wait, you've never been to Diana's Bath? Did we talk about this before?
I think we have, probably with maybe Jimmy Chaga. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I think we did, yeah. Diana's Bath it's in North Conway. It's a tourist place. It's a fun place to go. Like, I would recommend going. Like, go early and try to go midweek or something like that if you can. Maybe it's less crowded. But it's fun, but it is like a little bit like if you go in the middle of the day on a Saturday, like it's a complete zoo. And not that fun, but it's cool if you can go and there's no crowd. So it's just like a cascading waterfall swimming place in North Conway that a lot of people go that don't know about all the good secret spots.
All right. Well, June 17th, 3:30 p.m., Bartlett Jackson Ambulance, U.S. Forest Service, New Hampshire Fish and Game officers responded to a report of an injured hiker in Bartlett on the Moat Mountain Trail, which is connected to the Bath, I believe. And that's one of the ways up Moat. I'm not sure where this person was headed, but 0.8 miles in, this person from Manchester, Connecticut, ended up injuring his ankle after slipping on a loose rock in the river. She was able to walk with rescuer assistance a short way and then was wheeled in a stair chair to the ambulance, where she was transported to Memorial Hospital in North Conway. Now, I can tell you what a stair chair is, but I would advise you to just search for it and take a look at the image because it's pretty neat. I'll leave it at that. Any questions, gents?
I'm Googling a stair chair.
I'm thinking a Stairmaster? I don't know. Huh.
Oh, so it looks like a big giant wheelchair, but like a dolly.
Well, yeah, there are skis on the back of it, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
I've never seen one myself, but apparently they probably use this over on that side or in that particular location, and it probably works well. And so, stair chair.
It's perfect for that location because it's basically flat. But yeah, it looks like a wheelchair, but there's no armrests.
Yeah.
And it's like combined with like a dolly that you would use to like, we used to use them in restaurants, but like a dolly that like you used to, like a mover would use to move stuff around. So it sounds like, it looks like you can like basically tilt the person backwards as far as you want,
And slide them.
and then slide them, either that or just drag them up the stairs. So
Right.
how many people would have to? I would think that like multiple people would need to pull this thing to get somebody up an elevated section, though.
I can't even comment because I've never used them over here. They wouldn't be practical on this side of the Whites. Maybe at the basin, but we're typically up on falling waters or something like that. Something like that would never work. Occasionally we use a wheeler, which is
A single wheel, yeah, we talked about that.
with the wheel underneath. Yeah, you've seen those. But honestly, this is new to me. I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'll put a picture of this up on the show notes, and I definitely want to ride in this thing. Stomp, you can push me on this thing with your hip that you don't want to talk about anymore.
Yeah, it could be like a new whale tail ride or something, It looks really cool.
Yeah.
The hip I don't want to talk about. The hip that shall not be named. All right. So we're on to the last one. Lost hiker located in Canterbury. And as a preview for upcoming episodes, there has been a lot of lost person activity. And I'm sure we'll be seeing these reports come out soon. But this one happened on the 19th. 10 p.m., Fish and Game were notified that a lost hiker in the town of Canterbury was out there. The hiker was identified as a 60-year-old male. Upon receiving the call, law enforcement learned that the individual had gone out for a late afternoon hike behind his house. The wife got nervous when he didn't return. A neighbor started receiving calls that perhaps he was turned around, quote unquote, while on his hike. Person himself was able to provide GPS coordinates from his cell phone to his wife and the neighbor just before the battery on his phone died. Boom. There you go. It's amazing. So a couple things here, like before we move on. Some cell phones can give you, I believe they're the iPhones in particular, maybe not Samsung, but iPhones do have a function or a feature that can show you your latitude and longitude. And if you're in dire straits, you can get those coordinates and give them to 911 or your neighbor or your wife, whoever you can get a hold of, before your battery dies. Let's see. The neighbor was able to tell the individual that was lost to stay put and that they would come to find him. They were unsuccessful. They looked around. They could not find him. 11:30 p.m., there's a search effort underway by Canterbury Fire, Loudon Fire, New Hampshire Fish and Game. Searchers made multiple attempts to get to this person's location. This is really interesting. They used utility vehicles, but apparently all these trails are dead-end trails. They had blowdowns. Some areas were unpassable by UTV, so it took a while to get there. So finally, by 2:30 a.m., two officers from Fish and Game found a trail that led them to the individual. He was uninjured and ultimately got back to his family.
You know what I'm getting the vibe on this one, Stomp?
Yeah?
This is another one of those alien abduction cases. Right?
It could be. Yeah, I don't want to speculate, but
it's a little bit weird. Like he's kind of close to home, and like it just seems a little weird. But it happens. I guess people get turned around.
Did he just not have a headlamp? Did he just not have a headlamp?
Well, let's see. 10 p.m.
That's what it sounds like. He was out there on the trail, and then when it got dark, he just kind of sat down and said, well.
The report doesn't list anything about that.
Yeah, I mean, it does say to like be prepared and carry all the appropriate gear. So yeah, you could.
Right.
I mean, you could infer from that he probably didn't have a light, but it doesn't say one way or the other.
But I can't tell you. I mean, some of these locations, all throughout the state, have tons of snowmobile trails, and just they interweave, and they can be pretty confusing, and I'm sure that it's plausible that somebody may not be totally familiar with them, even if they're in their backyard. I mean, so it's possible.
Yeah, and I mean, as much as like the common theme is like, oh, people from out of state are coming up here and getting lost and getting turned around, but like we see these cases of like, oh, I'm just going out for a quick hike in my backyard, in these local New Hampshire towns, and all of a sudden a search and rescue gets mobilized where someone gets lost. Like it happens. A lot of times it is exactly what you just said, Mark. It's like there's no headlamp, and they don't know where they are, and they call 911, and they get picked out of the woods pretty quickly. So it's not that unusual. It happens. Luckily, this guy got found. I'm sure that his wife was not too thrilled. 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah, so the moral of the story is go to hikesafe.com, people.
Yep.
Look through that list. Make sure it's all in your pack. And make sure you leave your plans, and don't rely on your cell phone. They're junk, pretty much. They're great for pictures, but don't rely on them for anything else.
Always have a backup.
Exactly.
That's it. So it's been a busy week or week or two for search and rescue. So we had to catch up. I think we skipped last week. So good stuff. So good, Mark. Good catching up with you, and very interesting hike that you're doing there. So we'll look forward to bringing you back to catch up with how you like the Cohos Trail. I can tell you the Kilkenny Ridge is going to be awesome. I'll give you some more details on that after the show. And Stomp, did we miss anything? Or are we good to wrap it up?
I think we are all set.
Okay.
Yeah, great show. Over. Thank you, Mark, for coming out.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to learn more about the topics covered on today's show, please check out the show notes and safety information on SLASRpodcast.com. That's SLASR podcast.com. You can also follow the show on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next week for another great show. Until next time, on behalf of Mike and Stomp, get out there and crush some peaks.
Now covered in scratches, blisters, and bug bites, Chris Staff wanted to complete his most challenging day hike ever.
Fish and Game officers say the hiker from Florida activated an emergency beacon yesterday morning. He was hiking along the Appalachian Trail when the weather started to get worse. Officials say the snow was piled up to 3 feet in some spots, and there was a wind chill of -1 degree.
And there's 3 words to describe this race. Do we all know what they are?
Only one hill! Here's Lieutenant James Neeland, New Hampshire Fish and Game. Lieutenant, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
What are some of the most common mistakes you see people make when they're heading out on the trails to hike here in New Hampshire?
It seems to me the most common is being unprepared, and I think if they just simply visited hikesafe.com and got a list of the 10 essential items and had those in their packs, they probably would have no need to ever call us at all.